Well, a very good morning and welcome to Oberstdorf. Absolutely stunning conditions here for the start of the 2015 Tour de Ski. And this, of course, the 9th running of this Tour de Ski event. 7 days, 7 races, with 2 rest days in between. Let's have a look at the day's programme, though, here on Eurosport before we get underway with the Tour de Ski. Nordic Combined coming up afterwards. Simon Golding on hand for that from Schoenack. And then we have the men's prologue from the Tour de Ski at 11:40 UK time. Ski jumping, Nordic Combined again, and then the luge later on at 3 o'clock UK time. So a busy programme all the way through. But without a doubt, in my eyes, the ski jumping is perhaps the big event. But the Tour de Ski getting more interesting every year. Mike Dixon alongside myself, Patrick Winston. And Mike, I have to say, I look forward to this particular prologue more than any other race because it's so difficult to predict who's going to win it.
Well, it is. And the track profile here, Patrick, there's a huge climb, twice for the men and the women. And I think that's really going to sort the best from the rest. Will make it very interesting on this track.
The women racing over 3.2 kilometres. Welcome back to Oberstdorf. Not long now before the start of the women's prologue, which is the first event to get underway in this year's Tour de Ski. Happy New Year to you all, by the way. As you will have realised, the Tour de Ski starting a little bit later than last year. Normally it goes over the New Year period. Means we've had an extended time at home, and it means that the athletes are just that little bit fresher than they were last year. Well, talking of last year, let's have a look at the main players. And of course, Martin Jonsrud Sundby was sensational, becoming the first Norwegian man to win the Tour de Ski. Mike, his all-round ability, really, technically, he's just about perfect. And he's one of those men who just lives cross-country skiing.
He is, and I think he's a great role model, a great leader for the Norwegian team. And remember, Patrick, just 5 years ago, he had a huge weakness, which was the freestyle. He's worked on that in between time, and that red bib, that yellow bib as well, is so often his now.
Yeah, a classic example of don't accept what you've been given talent-wise. Work on your weaknesses and you will get better. And Sundby, outstanding in that 35-kilometre leg in Toblach Dobiaco, and that really was what sealed his victory. Jespersen finishing in 2nd place, so Norway 1, 2, and there you see the Duer of Austria coming across the line. He, of course, was later disqualified, having been found out for doping in Sochi, but there was no doubt that he was guilty in the Tour de Ski as well. In the women's event, Mike, another fantastic season, but really brought to life by the fact that Justyna Kowalczyk didn't race.
She didn't race. It was an objection because there were 5 races in the freestyle, only 2 in the classic, and I think she did the right thing. She was never going to win it with it being so loaded to freestyle, but it gave this woman a chance.
Yeah, it's Therese Johaug. Who's to say she wouldn't have won anyway, because her freestyle has improved. Brilliant on that final climb, nearly always the quickest up the Alpchemise. And Norway again getting a 1, 2, 3. Johaug, Jakobsen, Weng. And then, of course, further down the list, in fact, that was the lot for the Norwegians in the top 10, but they did get 1, 2, 3. And there you just see Heidi Weng coming across the line. Very seldom do you see your teammates so happy for one of the other team finishing, for one of your own team finishing 3rd, but I thought that was a delight.
It was, and I think that's why the Norwegian women's team is so strong. They live together, they have a great team spirit, they push each other all the time, and it has lifted them to this high spot where they are now.
And judging by the World Cup standings at the moment, the Norwegians are out to do a 1, 2, 3 again. But the big question for me is, will Kowalczyk win again, or will Bjørgen show the form she's shown already this season, and can she get enough of a lead to win the Alpgemeise?
Did you have a nice Christmas
last year's
break,
winner.
and are you ready to begin competition again?
Yeah, we had a really good Christmas days at home in Dalsbygda. A lot of snow, but it was really cold. It was about 25 to 30 degrees, so not so much training, but have a really nice time with the family and friends, and yeah, I'm looking forward to start tomorrow.
and it's a big event. Many days of racing coming up. Defending champion. Will you have any trouble going to sleep tonight?
Sometimes I'm not sleeping so good. If it is important races, you know that you have to do a good job. So sometimes I sleep good, but also sometimes I'm not sleeping before the races. So, but I'm looking forward now to start here, and it's nice tracks here in Oberstdorf. So yeah, it will be fun.
Well, wish you a good night's rest and good luck for the coming races.
Thank you so much.
Well, I didn't sleep that well last night, but I wish I looked that good having had a bad night. She's great, isn't she? Hugely popular in Norway, of course. And Johaug, is she going to be able to do it second time in the trot? If she's within a minute, Mike, she's got victory written all over it.
Yeah, a minute on that last day with the final climb. She's so strong in the final climb. But the other issue, Patrick, she's worked so much on her sprinting this summer, which I think has given her a much improved season. Although, of course, Bjørgen's leading at the moment. But I think she can win it again. Johaug, that is. I think she can do it again.
Well, I thought it was pretty cold in Oban over Christmas, but minus 25. What sort of training can they do? They have to be careful at those temperatures.
Well, and you know what? I was just thinking in that interview that's probably done her a whole lot of good to have forced rest, or at least a lot more gym work, and not going out doing big mileage, because at 25 to 30 degrees below, the skis are so aggressive, move so slowly, it's almost detraining. It can be often, so I should be out running and do a little bit of classic skiing.
Yeah, because of course the skis run that much slower in the colder conditions. We'll take another quick break. We'll be back with a start. Well, the tension's starting to build. All the coaches out on the course, and let's just remind you of this prologue. 3.2 kilometers. It's a 1.605 loop. Pretty difficult here. The World Championships have been held here a couple of times, Mike. I think you probably raced here in '85. I certainly remember the pain of racing here back in 1985. And that climb as you come out of the stadium is really severe. The women basically go to the top, turn around, straight back down again. And the downhill isn't going to give them much rest, because that's quite technical as well.
It is, and especially coming back into the stadium, you've got a very fast left-hander, having just jumped the bridge, basically. It can be quite fast. It won't be so fast today. A chance to look at the profile.
Yeah, here you go. Just talk us through it, Mike.
Right, there you are. So you get up to 500 metres, then it starts climbing the hill you mentioned, or the warm-up hill, and it comes along steeper after that. This is the biggest hill, and it's quite a difficult line, Patrick, up that hill. It's hard to pass people because you have to go the long way around. And there's the descent you talked about just after 1 kilometre. So an easier final third to this 2 times around this lap.
And one of the features is that in the normal prologue in Oberhof, there was 1 climb. When you got to the top, it gave you a pretty good indication. But today, they have to go up the climb twice. The actual total amount of climbing is pretty much the same as it was in Oberhof last year, just 20 metres or so difference. But in Oberhof, it was quite a long way from the top of the climb into the finish. You could lose 10-15 seconds. Here, you pretty much run straight down the hill into the stadium area. So if you're in a good position, that the second split time, which should be just some 600 metres before the finish, you should be able to hold that position.
I think so, and we talked about the final climb, the final day on this overall tour, which is a horrendous 4 kilometre climb.
Just note there, 52, Justina Kowalczyk, 4-time winner of the Tour de Ski. No man's won it 4 times. Kowalczyk pretty much making it her own. She didn't race last year, so can she make it her 5th win this season? Therese Johaug wears red and yellow. She is, of course, the defending champion. I think Marit Bjørgen must be starting as favourite. She's been on sensational form. But again, how much of a lead does she need going into the final day on the 11th, just over a week's time?
I quite honestly think she'll need more than 45 seconds, because Therese Johaug on the big climb, the final 4 kilometres, can take so much time out of anyone. And today, the big 40-metre rise it is today, twice for the women. I think this does suit Johaug a little more than Bjørgen today in this shorter event.
Well, the winner of the prologue, has only won the Tour on 2 occasions, and both times it was Justina Kowalczyk. She did that in 11 and 12. So winning today is not essential. Johaug, who won last year, finished 11th in the prologue. She was some 15 seconds behind. She lost 15 seconds on bonuses to Bjørgen, who won it. So she started after day 1 30 seconds behind, but still came through. Number 4, that's Kuzyakova for Russia. Now, it's a good start sheet. There are 1 or 2 big names missing, and the most notable, a former winner, Charlotte Kalla of Sweden. But if you look down the list of those missing, Ingmar's daughter, we've got Falk. The majority of the big names missing all come from Sweden. The reason is obvious.
It is, and part of that reason as well is a big FIS race being held next weekend in Falun, and a lot of the big names in this, because remember, it's always held at the end of the season, the event in Falun, and the Swedish athletes want a feel of that race course before the World Championships.
Yeah, so they're trying to save something for the World Championships. They've made that their priority, as you would do with a home World Champs. But Mike, the women are only racing over something like 50 kilometres over the next 7-8 days. It's not a massive work rate.
It's intense though, Patrick, isn't it? The psychology of it. You've got 7 races in 9 days, and it's racing at the extreme. Start line to finish line every day is brutal.
And it's De Bertolis of Italy who gets the 2015 Tour de Ski underway. 6 Italians in the field. They can wade all the way through to number 65, Baudin, who goes off in that last group of 4, not because she's one of the seeds, but just been drawn in between the top seeds. And Russia with a couple of early starters, Tanizhina, who finished 35th in the Tour last year. We haven't seen her on the World Cup so far this year, so she's been brought in for this, and as a good all-rounder.
And I think the Russian team, Patrick, bringing 7 athletes along this time, which equals the Norwegians in the field. And of course Germany are allowed to start a few more because it's on home ground. They can bring 5 more athletes into their field.
First of the Swedes, Maria Rydqvist. And Sweden, without Charlotte Kalla, really have no one who has a chance, in my view, of finishing in the top 5. Anna Haag, I guess we have to watch out for. Emma Viken, those 2 are racing. And Stina Nielsen also racing today. If they get a top 5, I'd be surprised. But I think top 10 is very, very possible.
Well, the word is on Nielsen. Stina Nielsen, we saw her at the Junior World Championships how good she is. You never know. Remember when Kalla came here as a young, no-pressure athlete, she performed well. She won it.
Yeah, but what a price. What a price. It ruined the rest of that season for her. It ruined the next season, and some say she's still not totally recovered. I'm not sure that's the case, because of course she's picked up Olympic golds since then. But Charlotte Kalla, I think, not quite fulfilling expectations, and some of that is certainly due to the fact that she raced so hard back in 2008. Arogien of France looking serious, and well, she might. It's a long programme they're about to undertake. The prologue today, as you know, over 3 kilometres, and then tomorrow the women have a 10-kilometre race, a day off on Monday, and then a sprint in Valmüster. That is a must-watch. It's a brilliant atmosphere, largely because of Dario Cologna, but I'm so glad they're going back to Valmüster this year. It was one of the highlights last year, and the fact that Andrew Musgrave did so well for Great Britain. And then, of course, we go to Toblach. We've got a 5 and a 15 for the women there, and then Val di Fiemme 10 and the 9-kilometre hill climb up the Alpe Chamis to finish it off.
Well, it's interesting. I think that the women are doing the exact same course as the men on the final day. Of course, most other days they're doing sometimes half distance. Of course, the big distance race for the men, the 35k in Val di Fiemme. The women only doing 15 kilometres that day, so less than half the distance.
So Navltova starting for the Czech Republic, and our next starter will be Saarinen. That will be the end of the first group, and the Finns have a very good record in this event. Of course, Koitinen winning it previously. Saarinen's also done very well.
Here is Saarinen, and what, a 35-year-old now. She has the experience, the mindset, Patrick, I think, to cope with these incredibly tough 7 days out of 9 days racing.
As you say, 35 and still showing no signs of slowing down. comes from a place called Halola, and of course didn't medal in Sochi, but she did medal in the 30-kilometer classic back in Vancouver, and that was some race.
You can see the intent. I love the way that she's taken off Saarinen. She's aggressive, and she will try and maintain that pace. You can see how wet the snow is, so the colouring, the mud coming through. Half a metre of snow fell on these tracks just, what, 4 or 5 days ago.
And as you say, very wet. Would you say an advantage to start early in those conditions? Certainly on the steep climb, the tracks are going to get cut up a little.
I think so. I think because it is so wet, it's going to become soft. The surface water, if you like, will slow the skis down. Maybe an advantage for Saarinen starting number 8. I love the Finnish ski suit this year. I think it's one of the best of the new ski suits that teams are showing off this season.
Saarinen ranked 76th in the World Cup rankings this year. Don't forget she was 8th in the overall World Cup back in 2012, and she's at the stage of her career where she focuses tends to be on one event for the season. I think the Tour de Ski might be what she's really looking at. She started very, very positively indeed. She's got an early start, so that's an advantage. So we could see her very well ranked after day one.
I love the way she's reading the track well. She went completely over to the right, almost tripping over the little twigs that they put as markers, because the middle of the track was softer. Hanging quite a good tight line on the left. This is really one of only 2 small areas where they get a little breather, a chance to recover.
Just in time for the big climb, which was about to come for Saarinen. We go back to the start. Lindborg getting underway with Miss Sophie Caldwell of the USA. The Americans also have Jessie Diggins racing, and she's very, very good at this sort of thing. So away goes Sarah Lundberg. Comes from Falun, of course, where the World Championships are going to be hosted. And what a contrast between her start and the one we saw from Saarinen.
Well, Caldwell just getting into the pace, but Saarinen put her in 10. Lindberg, surely a Saarinen is going to set so much of the early pace.
Well, let's see if we're right. 3:01, still 36 seconds inside, and she's going to split the gun very fast. Now, what's the margin going to be? 3:01 at 1.2 kilometres, and that's an indication of how tough the opening stage of this course is. Remember, they're going twice round the 1.6 kilometre loop. She's going to have, well, the margin not quite as substantial as I thought, but it should still be on the right side of the clock, or are we wrong?
How?
Well, I think Tanizina has had an absolutely storming start. That's not a good way to start the new year, Mike.
Well, Saarinen, she's lost a little bit of pace. Did she go off too hard from the gun? She's certainly struggling a little bit now.
Welcome back to Oberstdorf. This is the women's prologue, the very first stage of the women's Tour de Ski for 2015. 2 times 1.6 kilometre loops. Number 12 is Sarah Lindberg, who we saw start earlier on. And Tanizina's had an absolutely storming start for the Russians. She started second, and remember, she was only 35th in the Tour last year. And looks as though she's going to be ahead of Lindberg as well. We were both surprised that Saarinen didn't manage to beat the Russian, but she didn't, and 3:01 stands as the fastest time at the first intermediate.
The first time up the hill, Patrick, the athletes have to turn to the right or take the right-hand lane at the bottom of this hill, left as we look down, and they must take the left-hand lane or right as we look down the hill the second time round.
Ski preparation so important in these conditions, and quite a variation on the temperature, as is often the case. Now Rydqvist looking for 8:19. She's not going to be far outside. She might just beat it. She does. So Rydqvist has had a really good descent, a very good second lap for Rydqvist, pacing this one well, and Sweden taking top spot for now. So Tanizina, who's got the fastest split at the first time, surprised both Mike and myself, and I think we can now assess as we watch Kieken Randall, Randall, who of course won the prologue 2 years ago in Oberhof. Looking good, nice fluent start. And what I was going to say about Tanizina, Mike, pacing absolutely crucial on a 2-lap course.
Well, it is, and did Saarinen, we saw her start so fast, did she suffer from the first 2 minutes of her race at maybe a little bit over, like a sprint 2 minutes, rather than holding something back? Because she certainly has lost a little bit of pace as the race progressed for Saarinen. Kieken Randall hasn't had a good start by her amazing standards. 3 times the world sprint overall leader. I think we'll see some of her better form coming through now after Christmas. Good to get the long shot on this course. You can see it twisting its way around the fields here at Oberstdorf.
This is Caroline Thomas-Huck for France, the French colours, as I'm sure you recognise, the black and yellow. Not exactly traditional, but it does help the coaches pick it out, and that's a very solid run from her. 4.4, and with the best skiers starting last in this race, we should see the fastest time toppled time and time again. That really depends on whether the course holds out, whether the steep climb becomes almost impossible to negotiate, and the downhills as well. So there is a possibility that we'll see a surprise result today. We're certainly looking at some very good performances early on. Nuvltova isn't quite going to make it, but won't be far outside. 8:13 the leading time, and the margins on a short course like this. Last year, the winning time, just trying to think, I think it was just over the 6-minute mark, but the top 15 only separated by 15 seconds, so it is tight. Bonuses, of course, on offer for the top 3, 15, 10 and 5 seconds. How crucial are they going to prove? And if you look at the last 3 years of the Tour de Ski, the bonus margins gained by the top 3 actually end up determining the result.
Hugely. Well, here is Saarinen now. She has dropped off from a fantastic early start to this prologue.
Remember, last year's winner of the Tour, 15 seconds off the best after the prologue. So at the moment, Saarinen 13 seconds behind, and perhaps just that little bit too eager. On the early stage of a race, Mike, you can afford a 10-second sprint at the beginning to get your pace up, but what sort of percentage do you want to be working at for the first kilometre?
Well, I would think, I mean, if you were to wear the pulse watch, we'd see right now in this hill, Stephen, I'd say 93% of our absolute max, and that's tolerable. You can live with that. I think if you take that in the first minute, 2 minutes, then you do suffer later in the race. So possibly 89 to 90% early on, and then opening up to 92, 93%.
Good solid start from Randall. Very good start from Stephen of the USA. So maybe they are about to come good.
This track, though, we could see when we saw the slow motion of Saarinen earlier, you can see how mushy there in this corner, how wet it is, and I think becoming more so as the race goes on.
Yeah, the S-bends, it's a part of the course I think is absolutely fantastic, because it really does test those who are good at alpine skiing. They're going to gain some speed, which could be worth 3 or 4 seconds as they come off the bottom of the hill.
And it's about relaxation as well, isn't it? You've worked so hard up to the top of that almost 40 meters vertical climb on the huge climb, and your legs are totally spent. So if you can keep flow and relaxation around these corners, you're not burning any more energy, and your legs are becoming more recovered.
So 2 Americans in the top 10 at the moment. Sargent just outside, 5.4 behind. This is the best form we've seen from the American team so far. Just a reminder that Kieken Randall, 35th in the World Cup standings at the moment, having finished 6th last year, 3rd the previous year. So as Mike suggested, she's not been showing her full potential so far this season, but it looks as though the Americans have done some good work over the Christmas break. Great cornering, really good technique, stays as low for as long as possible over that little rise, over the little footbridge. And now we go back to the start. One of the best hopes for Sweden, Anna Haag from Mora, which is the finish of the Vasaloppet, perhaps the best known of all the tour races on the world circuit. Jessie Diggins coming in to finish very quick at the intermediate, 8:13 the leading time, and Diggins is going to be close, just 2.1 outside. Thomas Hugo France benefiting from a little bit of competition in the closing stages, so bit by bit that leading time is coming down. Is Shapovalova of Russia going to be able to match it? Well, she matches at 1.2, just 0.4 of a second inside, and then the rest will depend on her pacing.
Interesting, the different styles. Some are going for a very fast tempo, and we'll see Therese Johaug certainly setting the fastest tempo. Some are going for the longer stride option.
Yeah, Elizabeth Stephen on the right of your screen in the USA colours. She's going for the high tempo. Just see that left knee collapsing in a little bit, Mike. I know we've seen it with various skiers over the years, but is that something that, if you take the Sundby example, is that something that you can iron out and benefit from?
I think it is, and I know recently you've been on a slack line. I know a lot of the athletes just training the lower, from the knee to the hip to the ankle, trying to get their weight and trying to teach the stability through the lower leg. I think it's something absolutely that can be worked on and improved upon. And Sundby did do that, because he had, I think it was his right knee that used to go in, and he spent with his physio in the gym. They spent so many hundreds of hours building a better, stable drive through the leg.
Yeah, it's all about strength, and it's all about skiing properly all the time. As soon as you go on a long session and you don't think about it, you go back a couple of steps, because you just get used to skiing with the faulty technique. Let's have a look at Stephen coming in, whatever the technique. It's been a brilliant performance so far. 8:13.0, the current leading time. Oh, she's going to be just inside. 0.1 of a second, couldn't be closer. And the USA take the lead for now. That will really give Keegan Randall a target to aim at, and I think we're going to see a little bit of competition between the Americans. Victoria Karl here for Germany. She started 30 seconds ahead of Anna Haag, and you can see Haag in the background in the white of the Swedish colours, and she looks to be pretty much online for the lead time as well. 3 minutes, 0.2 of a second. Shapovalova with the lead at 1.2. Anna Haag trying to topple that, but I don't think she's going to manage it. She's not far outside. And never read too much into the first split time in a prologue as short as this. Remember the distance, 3.2 kilometres. That's good enough, isn't it, Mike?
Great start, and looking in control.
Well, here comes Randall, her teammate leading, Stephen on 8:12.9, and Randall unable to accelerate on the second loop, and finds herself 7.6. She could end up some 10, maybe even 15 seconds off the fastest time come the end of the day. But showing better form. I thought she looked quite strong.
She looked better. The one thing with Randall, she'll be positive no matter what, so she'll look at it and think, right, I'm getting some form back. I'm beginning to feel the racing coming back. And who knows what she can do in this tour.
Hannah Kolb for Germany. Now, she's not going to be far outside. Is Shapovalova's time about to go? A little deceptive, this picture, because the slope actually so steep that they look a lot closer than they are. And Kolb, 4.2, that will do.
It's not bad. She took a very wide line looking down the hill we saw on the left side. The better race line is on the right, but the snow was less broken up on the line she took, so she's reading the track beautifully.
Well, although there weren't many people here earlier on this morning, the crowd numbers are growing and they're still flooding into the stadium. I think there'll be quite a few who've decided that the 10:45 local time start was a fraction too early, and they'll be coming out for the men's race later on, still suffering from the new year.
And I think the talk of the new year and the Christmas, of course, this has always started a week earlier. I think it's a good move, especially for the athletes, that this year they've decided, the FIS have decided that the Tour de Ski starts 1 week later, gives the athletes more recovery time and a little bit of preparation time for this.
It's also given a little bit more time for the snow to fall. And we've had precious little so far this season. Number 40 starting is Emma Viken from Åsarna in Sweden, and she's gone for that fast stop. A lot of drop onto that left ski, and then the drive, positive drive from that left leg. But you can't keep that going for too long, especially on that initial climb on the first loop. Kiloinen of Finland in 8.6 outside the fastest time. We've just beaten the 8:13 mark, 8:12.9 the leading time at the moment. And is Claudia Neustadt, another of the veterans on the tour, is she going to be the one that springs a surprise? She'll certainly get a lot of support on these tracks. Formerly Claudia Kunzel. She's done a lot of Loppet racing. She's tried a hand at pretty much everything, Mike. What do you make of her form so far this year?
I think she's had a wonderful start to her season, ranked very lowly coming into the races, where was it, in Lillehammer, and finishing top 20 a number of times, well, 5th in Davos as well recently in the 10-kilometer freestyle. She's had a great start to her season.
Yeah, and top 20 of the World Cup standings at the moment. So Kunzel certainly worth keeping an eye on. Or Neustadt, I should say, number 42. Novikova for the Czech Republic. Now that's a significant margin.
That'll be disappointing on day one to be so far back, and of course the winner, you mentioned earlier, gets a 15-second bonus. Second place 10 seconds, third place 5.
Now, Stephanie Böhler, this is good. And 0.6, just what she needs. She's going to get some really good splits as she comes around on that second lap. Sebasek for Slovenia just coming in. Petra Majdic, of course, someone who's won this prologue before. She's long since retired, but Majdic won in 2010. And it would be nice to see another Slovenian getting up to that sort of level.
Oh, I think that you mentioned Majdic, the history, the legacy she's left behind. She's now with Sebasek. We've got so many good Slovenian sprinters, and I think when the tour goes to Val Muster, Sebasek has a good chance of top 5, top 3. Hopefully she could win it.
Emma Viken, whose best results this year have come in the freestyle technique. Nice to see her switching from a left lead to a right lead. And this is the sort of course where you do need to have that ability, but just about every skier has a favoured side.
They do. Well, Viken is definitely the athlete who's shown us so many side changes. It's a difficult hill, this, because the tendency is to lead through the right side with the slope of the hill.
8.3 outside. It's a little bit worrying. And a hard coming in towards the finish, and she's going to be outside by a decent amount as well. 8.6 the margin at the moment. So Stevens' time looking more and more impressive. It stood for 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll start to get into the big seeds pretty soon. 68 competitors of all in all, and we don't need to tell you who's going to be the last person away. It is, of course, the overall World Cup leader, who happens to be the Sprint World Cup leader as well, Marit Bjørgen of Norway, and looking to get her first Tour de Ski victory. Didn't finish last year, didn't start the year before, having had a little bit of a concern about her heart. And so a big opportunity for Bjørgen, especially with Kowalczyk just slightly off form.
It's hard to believe that the name Bjørgen hasn't won the Tour de Ski. She's obviously attempted a good number of times, and maybe she's saving it for this year. One of the few titles she hasn't won.
Yeah, I'd like to see a win for the one reason that she always celebrates when she wins, but it would mean so much to her to get to the top of the Alpe d'Huez first, and I think we'd see a really special celebration.
We would, well, we certainly would, and but can she do it? I think, I said it earlier, I think she needs at least a 45 seconds lead on Therese Johaug leading into the final day, which is quite a big task to achieve.
I agree with you there, but I think Therese Johaug can take more than 45 seconds off her on that last day if she has to. We've never really seen her tested on that climb. Let's see what Hagen can do. Shapovalova still leading at 3 minutes, and Hagen's going to be close. Fifth, just 0.7 outside. That's at 1.2 kilometers, remember. And the first time up that big climb. Bjornsson coming in for the United States. She's going to get close, very close indeed. 0.9 of a second inside. And we have America 1 and 2, Steven and Bjornsson. Well, what great work from them. And the one thing I've noticed with the Americans so far today, not only that they're skiing better than they were before Christmas, but they're getting good gains on the downhill section here in Oberstdorf.
Yeah, it's lovely attacking skiing and carrying the weight, carrying the momentum over the rise, over the top of the hill. When you're most exhausted coming to the top of this rise, the tendency is to back off a little.
Nielsen, brilliant junior. Is she going to have the strength to survive the whole of the Tour? She certainly looks to have done pretty well on the first climb, and she's going to be right up there with the best. She is. She's in fact better than the best. Shapovalova pushed down into second. Justina Kowalczyk, 4-time winner of the Tour de Ski, and if anything, her skating, her freestyle technique has got worse this year than it's been in the past, Mike. She'll like the fact that the conditions are a little bit soft. If it was icy on those S-bends, I think we'd see her take her skis off and walk down. But, that's a little harsh, but she would struggle. But I don't know what it is. Classic, she's fantastic, but the freestyle, she's really struggled this year.
Oh, she has. Well, the last couple of years it's dropped off a little. I must admit, the way Kowalczyk started, she looked like her balance has been worked on. The flow looked a little, we only saw her for 10 seconds, but for me it looked better.
Well, we'll see.
That's going to be good news. Yeah,
we'll see her up at this point in 3 minutes time, just under that, as we watch Nicole Fessel of Germany go through at 1.2, and she's right in the mix as well, splitting Nielsen and Shapovalova. A little bit of free skate coming in for Stephanie Böhler as she comes into the last 100 meters, and she's not going to match the best. The two Americans remain 1 and 2, and Stephanie Böhler some 5.7 seconds outside.
Well, the margins are so slender. We've got 10 people within, well, just under 5 seconds.
Pursuit race tomorrow, of course, and the women racing over 10 kilometers. And the winner today gaining a 15-second bonus. Second place gets 10, so there will be a 5-second margin between first and second, but I can't remember a time where we've seen the winner of the prologue going off 100%, realising that it's futile to try and lead from the start.
It will be interesting. 10 kilometres though tomorrow, the classic, and yeah, that's the great thing with the Tour de Ski. Every single day you're pushing for the bonus. The leaders are pushing hard for the bonus seconds, make life easier for them the next day, but they're always being chased down and hunted down by the rest of the pack. It's pressure all the way through. And it was interesting, Therese Johaug saying sometimes she just doesn't sleep with getting herself high, getting herself ready, psyched up for the race.
Well, I don't think she'll be the only one who struggles in those situations, but the sleep isn't actually a major problem as long as you're getting your food and getting the massages that they need. Let's see what Kowalczyk's done on the first climb. It looks pretty respectable to me, Mike. She's really powering her way up this steep section.
I like this, Patrick. Her ski pole length is greater than anyone else in proportion to her height. I know she leans forward, but that left arm is high. This is fantastic news.
Look at that, 4.1 inside. Well, we were very critical of her technique, but she has an engine that I think Marit Bjørgen's perhaps the only one, if she can match it. It is a phenomenal engine that Kowalczyk Kowalczyk has.
And Björgen has said, you know, if Kowalczyk started so late, total respect for a 15-year-old in this sport, and you don't have the movement. So remember Björgen saying, oh, if she'd worked on her, or if she skied as long as I have, she'd be so much better in terms of the technical descending.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Nishtad across the line, 17.6 outside. That's a really disappointing result for her, and it leaves her with a lot of work to do in the remaining 6 stages. 7 stages in all in the Tour. The prologue obviously first. 10k for the women tomorrow, a sprint on Tuesday, and then they go to Toblach for the double-header there, a 5 and 15 for the women.
When you look at this race, Patrick, it's so rare that the race just an 8-minute, it's a prologue, it's time trial. It's so rare that the race over 8 minutes, and I think that's where Kunzo Neustadt was suffering at her age, at 36-year-old. This is a shock to the system.
But it's too long for the sprinters to win outright. It's short enough for the sprinters to think they've got a chance, but very, very seldom do they come through. You look at the list of women who've won it, and they've all been all-rounders. Hagen started 44. We're getting towards the last of the starters. Remember, Østberg, Johaug, Björgen are the last 3 big names to go off, although other seeds or non-seeded skiers have been put in between them. So Baudin and Bonner of Italy and Switzerland will be right at the back of the start sheet as well. Nice shots of Martine Hagen.
Great cornering. She was keeping low, keeping the skis tight to the snow.
Niskanen just outside Justina Kowalczyk's time. Could be going into second, just misses it, into third. Well, there's a positive start, and it comes from Heidi Weng, who was one of the podium finishers last year. Weng finishing third in the Tour de Ski last year, and she looks to have started very, very well indeed. As we watch Stina Nilsson for Sweden, outside the best. Björnston still there in first place, with Stephen of USA in second. Well, this is a good finish from Nicole Fessel. She's taken 30 seconds out of von Siebenthal of Switzerland. And is it going to be good enough to take the lead? It is, and it's a good margin as well. Look at that, 5.5 seconds. And Nicole Fessel has done just what the fans here wanted her to do. And she's produced a very, very quick time indeed. Now, Germany still have Denise Herrmann to finish, but I'm not sure that Herrmann is going to match Fessel.
Ivanova fighting away up this hill, just attacking. A lot of body movement, a lot of wasted energy there in the upper body.
Faller of Norway. She looks to be moving well. Kowalczyk was taking huge strides up this hill, Mike, lifting that foot up and forward on each stride. That, you know, you've got to have a fantastic cardio capacity to do that. We can see Kowalczyk on the right-hand side actually climbing the hill for the second time. Still looks incredibly scrappy, but my goodness, she works fast. Not quite as fast as Therese Johaug, the defending champion, is underway. And if you had any doubts as to whether she wanted to win this year, you can put those to rest, because that is some start that we've just seen from Therese Johaug. What sort of time is she going to get at the top of the first climb? A fantastic effort over the first 150 metres, but can you keep that going? Well, most of us, absolutely no chance, but Johaug always stuns, and I still, every time I see that, I'm reminded of that 30k in Oslo back in 2011.
She's quite an amazing athlete. You would say normally with athletes, if they attack like that from the gun, they cannot hold that pace, but the one person in the world who can is Therese Johaug, but she always has had that fast tempo.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next 2.5 minutes to fly by so we can see what Johaug's done at 1.2. Here's one of her teammates, Heidi Weng, close enough to be dangerous. Very good skiing from Heidi Weng. Third place at the moment, 2 seconds outside. And here we go with the overall leader, almost certainly the best ever female cross-country skier, an astonishing tally of World Cup wins. And if you put the tour stages together as well, as we watch Kowalczyk finish 6.8 outside, too quick at the first split.
Possibly too quick. We saw that she looked great.
Or has she fallen? Has she taken a fall on the downhill?
But look how much time she's losing on the downhill. Athlete coming on the inside, the better racing line. She's almost snow ploughing, killing all of that speed. This is where she's lost her 5 seconds.
What do you mean almost snow ploughing?
Total snow ploughing.
Out-and-out snow plough.
That is such a pity. 5 seconds, that's where it's been lost. Twice down that hill, she's probably lost 10, 12 seconds.
And the amount of training you have to do to gain that amount of time on the uphill, it's a ludicrous. Surely. I know she started late, but surely you can get on the Alpine. So it's going to spend 3 weeks downhill skiing, for goodness sake, and improve that side of the racing. Osberg, by the way, a great start from her.
Haga, she started slower within herself, but certainly moved forward in the latter part of the race.
Well, the one thing we can say about Kowalczyk, Mike, is that the engine and the form are back to their best. There's no doubt about that, but she still has the old weaknesses there.
And I think for Kowalczyk, the signs there, her form in skating and freestyle is very good, and over longer distances, I think we'll see much better performances from Kowalczyk.
Here we go with Therese Johaug, 19 seconds inside the best at the moment, but she's still got 40 metres to go before she crosses that 1.2 kilometre line. Osberg leading for Norway, and Therese Johaug's going to be there or thereabouts. Is she inside? She is. The margin's not huge, but all that work for a 2-second gain. Was it worth it?
It's incredible. It is worth it. I think she'll be able to. She's going to lose some of this tempo, some of this pace, but I think she's still going to be challenging at the finish line. If not a first, then surely a second.
Do you think it's fair to say, as we watch Niskanen coming in, is it fair to say that Johaug has got to try and qualify for the knockout phases of the sprints if she's going to have a chance of defending her title?
I think so. She stands to lose up to a minute.
Niskanen sprints this year in Valmoster, as we mentioned, and with only one sprint on the programme. As we watch Bjørgen coming up, well, this is another fine performance from her. What Therese Johaug can do, Marit Bjørgen can do that little bit better.
That is comfortable, 3.3, and she doesn't look stressed, overly stressed. Of course, she's on her limit at the top here.
You see that jaw dropping as she gasps for air, right on the oxygen debt limits, Marit Bjørgen. But as you say, no stress in the technique. But isn't that the difference between the Norwegians who start skiing at 2 and Kowalczyk, who started at 15? When you get tired, you still ski with the same technique.
And Bjørgen showing us beautifully there. This is fast. This is like 70 kilometers an hour down this descent. It doesn't show it on the cameras, but it's very fast, and you need an incredible movement of understanding of your body movement.
Marit Bjørgen in the background, just braking to her left to start the second lap, as we watch Palmakoski for Finland, finishing, started 58.
I think she'll be disappointed. 23.4 seconds. I had her as one of my top 10 for today. She's had a poor start.
That's Heidi Weng going past Therese Stadlober of Austria, and Heidi Weng right up there in the rankings after the first lap. She's at 1.2, she's down in 6th place, 7 seconds off the pace set by Marit Bjørgen. So having had that first intermediate time, Mike, just fractions of a second, we now have, what, 7 seconds separating the top 5?
It's, well, Bjørgen has slaughtered that early time to take 4 seconds after almost 4 minutes of racing. Sorry, the second time. 3 seconds at the first checkpoint, just under 3 minutes, and then 4 seconds with just under 4 minutes of racing.
Yeah, and the order at the second interval, which is just as they come down into the stadium, looks very much like the World Cup standings. Bjørgen, Johaug, Osberg, Weng, Faller, Haga, Norway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Total domination by the Norwegians at the moment.
You need all these coaches, you need a big backup team of waxing technical experts preparing the skis wonderfully, as well as the engines of the athletes prepared wonderfully well.
Haga leading at the moment, having started 54. Is Veng going to get inside? She is. 1.5 seconds, so she's pretty much guaranteed to finish in the top 5 at the end of today. This is her teammate, Usberg, going through 2.8. Usberg very quick early on, but Veng has gained some 2.5, 3 seconds over Usberg on that last lap.
Usberg struggling there, Patrick. She needs to keep. She did get some momentum over the top of the rise, but she's suffering badly in this part of the race.
Yeah, I don't think there are enough sprints in the programme this year for Usberg to think she can win it. Remember, she won the sprint in Davos, looked very good on that occasion.
Certainly a class act, and she has worked, and unlike Johaug, where Usberg, her strength was her sprinting and not so much the distance, and Johaug, it was the distance, not so much the sprinting, but Usberg has worked on the distance racing and Johaug has improved on the sprinting. Little stumble there.
So 8:03 is going to stand, and Veng's had a very good second lap. Intelligent skiing from her, and having had USA 1 and 2, we now have Norway 1 and 2. That was Therese Johaug going through.
What was that, 0.4 behind?
0.4 behind Heidi Veng. That is a turnaround, a significant turnaround. Now Johaug's got to ski the downhill sections brilliantly if she wants to get back on terms.
I think it's fantastic pacing from Veng, who started some 7 seconds at the second split time behind Bjørgen.
Safe from Johaug, perhaps not as aggressive as we saw from Heidi Veng, and of course from Marit Bjørgen, who's still out on the course. Marit Bjørgen starting a minute behind. I think that's Baudin of Italy, who started 30 seconds ahead of Johaug. It is. Good finish coming in from the Italian, though.
It is, and I think the Italian took the descent a little better than Johaug. She has lost time on the descent.
2.5 seconds. Not to worry, that is good enough, and it's better than she did last year when, remember, she finished some 15 seconds behind the fastest time, which was held by this lady, Marit Bjørgen, in the prologue in Oberhof. So a good start. Wide line taken there from Bjørgen, so a fraction of a second goes missing, but what was her split at the last interval? 10.2 clear of Heidi Veng when she went over the top of the hill for the second time. So there's no doubt that Marit Bjørgen is going to take the lead, provided she stays on her feet. And here she comes into the last 100 metres now. It's been another brilliant demonstration and the perfect start to the 2015 Tour de Ski. Is this going to be the season that Marit Bjørgen finally claims the Tour de Ski crown? Well, 6 races to go, 6 days of racing, but a 10.7 margin plus 15-second bonus seconds over Kowalczyk and over Johaug. That's pretty useful.
It's very useful, and the fact that Johaug doesn't pick up any of these bonus seconds, which is a real pity for Johaug. I thought she'd be second or third today. She's 4th. And that's a big advantage handed to Bjørgen on day 1 if your name's Johaug.
So Norway go 1, 2, 3, 4 at the halfway stage. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. It's incredible. Everyone would love to know their secret, but part of their secret, Mike, is the fact that so many women do cross-country skiing, and they all do it to a high level, and every time they turn on the box, every time they watch Eurosport, they see a Norwegian winning.
They do, and I think when you've got Marit Bjørgen as the team captain, she can do no wrong, she can win almost every race. The younger athletes want to be Bjørgen, they want to beat her, they're training alongside her, and they're closing in on her. Not quite able to beat her today, though.
Well, hopefully we'll get to hear exactly what Bjørgen has to say. Yes. So yet another stage victory for Marit Bjørgen. She'll be closing in on the tally held by Justyna Kowalczyk.
I'm impressed that she's been grabbed so soon after the finish line.
Prologue over 10 seconds to second place. It's a long tour, but it must still be nice to start with a win.
Of course, it's a good beginning, and you know that the shape is very good, and yeah, but tomorrow is the 10K again, and they are coming very hard behind me, so we see. But it's a good start, and I know that the shape is very good. So.
And on TV, it makes the course look much flatter than it is. It's quite difficult, long climbs.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, it's 2 laps, and it's very hard uphill. So if you're too fast in the beginning, you maybe can get it hard in the last lap. But I did very good 2 laps, so I'm very happy.
Well, congratulations on a great start.
Oh, thank you.
Now you can breathe.
So for the 3rd time, Marit Bjørgen wins the prologue of the Tour de Ski, but another reminder, she has never won the event, the Tour overall. So there'll be a lot of people hoping. Kowalczyk down in 10th, 20 seconds behind, plus 15, so 35 seconds behind on day 1. That makes tomorrow vitally important for Kowalczyk. It is classic, it is 10K, she is the Olympic champion over that distance, so she's got to produce the very best result. But I think we saw it in her, Mike, provided she doesn't struggle with the downhills.
Well, it will be interesting, but when Bjørgen is in such good form, is she touchable in this Tour? I would love to see her win it. She will be chased, that's for sure, but what a wonderful start.
Well, the first race of this year's Tour de Ski is over, and Marit Bjørgen has started last but finished first. Absolutely sensational form. Not only has she won it, but she's won it with a big margin. 10.7 seconds on time alone. She gets another 5-second bonus advantage over Heidi Weng, so she's 20.7 clear as we look at the results. 15.7, sorry, clear of Weng, but she's going to be, what is she, 31 seconds clear of Justyna Kowalczyk, and that begs the question, Mike, will Marit Bjørgen go flat out from the start tomorrow, 10-kilometre classic, or will she wait for Weng and hope to get some teamwork going to stay ahead of Kowalczyk and, of course, last year's champion Therese Johaug?
I mean, they will be talking so much about strategy, but I think she has to get out there and attack as she did today to try and snap the field by even a greater margin than she has at the moment.
Well, the first race of the new year, and Marit Bjørgen already has a 331-point lead over the next nearest rival in the overall World Cup standings. Fantastic start from her, and even if she doesn't win the Tour, she could do what is very rare, to lose the Tour but win the overall. It doesn't happen so often because the points are so generous for the Tour de Ski.
400 points at stake for the victory.
Well, let's have another look at the programmes today. Nordic Combined coming next with Simon Golding, then Luge will have the men's prologue. We'll be back on at 11:40 UK time, so 1 hour, 5 minutes to wait before we see who is the king of the prologue in the men's race. Will it be Petter Northug? Will Dario Colonia come through? Are we going to see a new name? There are plenty of Norwegians out there who could win it, so do join us for that a little bit later on. And if you've got the whole day off, there's plenty of Nordic sport to be watched here on Eurosport. Well, that's all for now. As I say, just over an hour before we'll be back with the men's prologue. They have a slightly longer course, 4.4 kilometres, 2 big climbs, and the opening stage of the Tour de Ski coming up. Hope you join us then. From Mike and myself, goodbye for now.